All right. Hey, guys. We are hitting our chapter 13 and 14 this week after Thanksgiving. I hope everybody's Thanksgiving was great. And as we dive into these chapters, we are finishing off the noun adjective section. So after this, you're going to be in verbs, the rest of Greek. So on one level, it's like enjoy this time because when you get it to participles, things are just going to be fun. But at the same time, these two chapters can put your head into a spin with all the details. And that's what's happening with Greek right now, is that you started with nouns, adjectives, you moved over to verbs, and now you're jumping back to sort of a pronoun section, and things are just getting a little bit, there's a lot of information getting thrown at you. Mm-hmm. The good news is that come after this week, after these chapters, you'll pretty much be in a consistent frame of mind with verbs. It'll just be sustaining what you already know. And then the verbs you've learned the endings. So the verbs use that ending, if not like a little variation of that ending, and it's just learning verbs from that point. So Greek starts to smooth out a little bit. The information still comes at you pretty fast, but Greek starts to smooth out a little bit. You're doing less paradigm and memorization as you will starting to translate and figure out how it functions, which I think is what all of you are driving toward. So in these chapters 13 and 14, let's finish off the noun section. We're going with demonstratives, which I'll be honest with you, when I started Greek, I had no idea what a demonstrative was.
Yeah.
So these chapters, and as I said before, chapter 14 threw me through a loop. When I got to chapter 14, it was a make or break. Now I was on track 1, so it's a little different. I hadn't hit verbs yet, but it was a make or break for me where I had to just start learning how to diagram sentences because I didn't understand their structure. I didn't understand the syntax of a sentence because the relative pronouns start creating relative clauses. Those relative clauses can act as subject objects, direct objects. They can function as attributively, like an adjective describing a noun. So they can do a lot of different things. And I started struggling figuring out how a sentence was structured, how to break it down. And so I had to start going diagramming sentences. So these chapters are going to be tossing a lot of info at you, but there's hope at the end of the tunnel that this is kind of the end. As you go back and you start learning, it's just going to be little manipulations to the verbal structure you've already learned. So, all right, chapter 13, demonstratives, pronouns, and adjectives. There's two different words, hutos and ektainos. Hutos is this, these. So you learned the vocab word several chapters back. You learned the word hutos, right? Mm-hmm. And that is this. And you remember my stupid mnemonic was who tossed him out the car? This guy, you know? So it was like, yeah, who tossed him? It was this guy. So hutos is this, these. Ektainos is going to be that, those. So you understand the difference between those things?
Sure. Like sure. This and that. I mean,
this and that. Yeah. But until this chapter, I didn't think about how those were different.
Yeah. I guess I don't really know. Cause I don't even know what is a demonstrative? I know what the word is, but what is it?
It's a pronoun. So it still is replacing. If I say this, then it's actually the antecedent is the pen.
Right.
I'm just saying this one or this pen. So it's narrowing which pen. Rather than saying the pen, I could say this pen. Okay. So it's letting you know it's this one.
Got it.
Okay. But it also carries with it, and stick with me here, it's kind of this weird like first person, second person thing, where hutos is like this one. I'm talking about this right here, right now. Whereas ektainos would be like over there, like that over there. Difference between I and you is this, these versus that or those. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's like it's almost first person in a sense, or hutos is, because it's this or these pens, kind of like in my possession, my pens, these, right? Whereas ektinos almost has like a second person feel. Loosely connect this, not a lot, but it's kind of a second person feel because I'm talking about something that is not in my immediate possession. It's that or those over there, those ones. Okay. So that's the main difference in them. And in Greek, it's exactly the same, except for in Greek where our only words are this, these, or that, those. In Greek, it has cases and it declines it.
Yeah, it makes it awful.
Yeah. Actually, Aaron, it makes it awful because you're in the process of memorizing. But what it does is it makes it's almost a breath of fresh air when you're translating.
Oh, okay.
Because it gives you so much more information just by what form the word is in. So if you get to where you can parse words and then you go to a translation and you look at the form, you go, oh, it has to be this. It just identifies itself for you. Yeah. So, but Greek is systematized in that way. And so you've got the forms and the paradigm of the demonstrative hutos, haute, tuta. Now you need to be careful in the first declension. Haute, what does that look like?
It looks like alte.
It looks like alte, which is the third person pronoun, right?
Right.
This is not a third person pronoun. How do you know?
Because it has the rough breathing mark.
Right. That's the difference. So you need to be careful because we're starting to get into the realm where things start getting a little confusing because things overlap. But the demonstrative, you can see the paradigm for ektinos on the backside. The one thing you need to keep in mind about these paradigms is that the relative pronoun follows more of the article setup than it does the endings. Because if you notice in the first person neuter.
Wait, you talking about relative pronouns now?
Yes. Well, I'm sorry. I'm talking about these demonstratives.
Okay.
Sorry, I meant demonstrative. But they follow more of the article chart than they do the endings.
Right.
Because if you notice the neuter, nominative, and accusative singular, they don't have a new ending, which on the noun ending chart it would. Rather, they have no ending, kind of like more like the article ta, ha, hey, ta.
Yeah.
Right? So you got a no ending there. So
when you say no ending, what do you mean?
There's not a case ending. It just ends with the vowel, the omicron.
Right. Okay.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So that vowel, the omicron, is the stem vowel. That's not an ending.
The omicron's a stem vowel.
Right.
Got it.
So the demonstrative, couple things in 13.6, it tells you that you need to be careful for what I just told you. The neuter, nominative, accusative don't have case endings. The rough breathing mark or a tau always identifies the demonstrative for you, so that you don't get it mixed up with the third person pronoun. And then rule number 3 on 13.6 and 13.6, you see the first stem vowel used in hutos depends upon the final stem vowel. And so that you can read through that. That just is it's a help of identification.
Yeah, I read through that. I didn't understand it, but like, is it?
If you look at your chart on page 107, what you'll see is that the word is not spelled the same. So in the masculine, you'll see that the vowel at the beginning, like look at your genitive singular, tau, omicron, upsilon, tau.
Yes.
And look at like your accusative plural, tau, omicron, upsilon, tau. That omicron there is not set. That omicron, that vowel there follows the ending. So if you look at the feminine side, you'll see, look at like the dative plural, tau, alpha, upsilon, tau. And the reason that's an alpha and not an omicron is because the ending starts with an alpha. Does that make sense? It's just to help you identify and to know what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you notice in the neuter, the nominative plural and the accusative plural also have alpha endings, which make it an alpha beginning vowel. So it's not overly important. It's just for help of recognition.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And if you were asked to reproduce the paradigm, that would help you reproduce it.
Will we need to reproduce it?
Not this week.
Okay.
If the demonstrative functions as a pronoun, that would be this, these, or that, those, right? And depending on context, you may have to add words to make it make sense. But other than that, it's pretty simple. But it also can function as an adjective, okay? Which is, it's kind of the same thing. It's splitting hairs. It's this man, that man, those men. But when it's functioning as an adjective, it'll take the predicate position when it's attributive.
Yeah, and can you break that down a little bit more? Say that again, I guess. Okay,
when it functions as an adjective,
yes,
like describing a specific noun,
mm-hmm.
it's always it generally is in the predicate position, which means it does not have an article.
Right.
And the noun does.
And the noun does.
Yep.
Although it functions as an attributive adjective, what does that mean?
Well, because it's in the predicate position, if you treated this like a normal adjective,
it would say man is this.
Right. And that doesn't make sense with the demonstrative. So it takes the predicate position, but you don't translate it like a predicate. You translate it like an attributive.
Okay, makes sense.
Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. And then in 13.9, you can see it says sometimes the demonstrative weakens in its force, and sometimes when it's by itself, it just means he, like a regular pronoun.
Okay.
Which at this point, you're supposed to go, that's confusing.
Right.
And Mounts has a little note to tell you, yes, it is supposed to be confusing.
There's a substantial overlap among the article, the personal pronoun, and the demonstrative pronoun. What the heck does that mean?
Well, the word is substantial.
Substantial.
Yeah. So there's a substantial, as you've probably guessed, there's a substantial overlap among the article, the personal pronoun, and the demonstrative pronouns.
So what do you mean they overlap? It
means that they function within the realms. Like a demonstrative can act like a personal pronoun, he.
Okay.
It can act like autos if it wants to, or if it's set up that way in context. These are some of those words that are used that really context begins dictating how you translate them. They're not a one-for-one.
Got it.
Yeah, so you really have to use your educated brain to think through, this probably means this, and you've got that liberty.
Demonstrative can either mean like this. Demonstrative pronoun can be this, or it could be he, but most likely it's going to be like this. Or
right, but if context demands it, then you have the freedom in translation to put he.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, because, yeah, anyway, okay. So, and then it throws in on this chapter, it throws in these extra things like the vocative. And what you'll notice about the vocative, it's actually, in translation, the vocative is amazingly easy to recognize. So you've got your typical form, cure, curie, Matthew 7. That's a vocative. It says, like it shows you in the plural, the vocative is always identical to the nominative plural, which is funny because really what it means is that it's going to look exactly like some of them are going to look exactly like your regular nouns and adjectives. It really is context. When there's a direct address, the word is in the vocative.
Okay, the fifth and final case of direct address. Okay, a noun uses a vocative case ending when it's being directly addressed.
Yeah. So like if I were to talk to you, and I'd never talk to you this way, Aaron, but if I said, woman, what are you doing? The word woman would be in the vocative because I'm addressing you.
Okay. So what are the case endings for the vocative?
Well, you can see it says that, the plural is always like the nominative plural. It's kind of got that Andres in the singular first declension, that's in the first declension, which is the feminine, typically, it looks the same as the nominative, suke.
In the first declension, the vocative is the same as the nominative. Okay.
Yeah, it looks just like the nominative. You're not going to see it in the genitive, dative, because it's a direct address. So it's always going to look like the nominative, but context will tell you, because this says, and I will say to my soul, soul. So, that makes sense, right? It'll, I will say to my soul, and then it starts with soul.
Soul, yeah.
You have ample goods. So it's a direct address. So context in this case, you would say, yeah, that's in the vocative.
Okay.
Same thing it says in the singular second declension, the vocative ending is usually an epsilon. Anthrope. And so you'll see just a short word like that. But once again, it's going to be fairly obvious in context. Friend, your sins are forgiven.
Yeah.
It's a vocative.
Right.
And in the third declension, the vocative is just the bare stem of the word, pater.
Pater, yeah.
Yeah.
Like with all these rules, when you were taking Greek, did you just sit down and try to memorize them, or did it come to you over time as you were learning? And I don't know. Probably a mixture of both.
Yeah, a mixture of both. I was fairly anal as far as memorizing my
the rules.
The rules and stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when it got to the vocative, until I read over this again today, I was like, oh yeah. But it wasn't really
like implanted.
Not something to stress over. Definitely not. And I knew that when I got to the vocative, I said, yes, I can recognize a vocative. And I pretty much told myself I can recognize it out of context. I don't need to be able to fully parse it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I can recognize it in context.
Okay.
So odds and ends, the degrees of an adjective. So there are these comparative adjectives like large, larger, largest. And he's just listing them out. These are just grammar things. The positive degree is the normal, like large, megas. So you get like our word mega from big, right? It's just a big one, a large one. The comparative degree is one step above that. It's built on the same word, but it mutilates it. It's might zone, and might zone means larger. And the superlative is just the largest. It's the biggest you can get. And then he makes a note saying that the superlative was kind of falling out during Koine, and the comparative was typically used for even a superlative function.
Got it.
But it's just to kind of give you an idea that there can be a growing function of the adjective, a degree of the adjective. It gives you a term here, crassus. I don't know if the professors on this quiz, he's not going to, but I don't know if he's going to demand that you know this other point. But a crassus is just two words that are joined together. And so I've always remembered that mnemonically by just saying it's a crisis. Oh no, the two words came together. It's a crisis. I don't know. So I know that's dumb, but you guys are in Greek. Everybody's got dumb stuff. Mm-hmm. Now, Paulus, he throws it in right here, which I think is funny because Paulus is actually a paradigm that you're going to want to be familiar with.
Oh, darn.
Yeah. Now, I'm telling you that from my perspective, not from Dr. Briones.
Okay.
I'm just saying I've used this paradigm a lot.
Okay.
In Greek and in translation and stuff like that. Not to the point where I can reproduce it. You just need to be aware of the way it differs from a normal decline paradigm. And he says that here. It says in the second sentence on 1313, he says, it looks like a cross between a second and third declension word. So it's kind of like Paulos doesn't really know what it is. So
yeah,
it is.
The only place it differs is the accusative singular, right?
Well, if you notice, the nominative singular has an upsilon sigma. Accusative singular has that upsilon nu, so they're the upsilons. And then if you notice in the neuter, nominative and singular, nominative and accusative singular, those two have no ending like a third declension word.
Right.
Yeah. So yet it still follows the second declension pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because in the second declension, what is the ending?
New. On the neuter, those are news. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. So that paradigm, just knowing where it differs, and really, you're right. Those are the only places it really differs. But keep that in mind, because that will get. I've been confused on that in translation before, and come back to this and went, oh yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Okay, chapter 14.
Okay.
This one was the death of my Greek career.
Okay.
Yep. But it's not for everybody. It's just where the information culminated for me, and I went, oh no. And
I think literally is what happened.
Yeah. So you can see the relative pronoun functions the same as it does in the English. However, it does more of it's got gender, case number, and gender across the board. What you'll notice is that seems to be a little bit of overlap with the article.
Yeah.
But that rough breathing mark again.
It's the difference.
Well, no, it's not. I'm sorry. Ha, he, ta is the rough breathing mark is the same on the article.
Acute.
It's the acute accent, right? And so, and it's going to be fairly obvious when it's functioning as a relative pronoun. Mm-hmm. But that acute accent does help. That accent does help you identify the relative pronoun.
Yeah.
The only thing you have to be careful of is that, like, look at the neuter, nominative, and accusative singular.
Wait, say that again.
Look at
the neuter, nominative,
14.7.
singular.
Yeah, nominative, neuter, singular, and accusative, neuter, singular.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times when you get in a translation or you're thinking about those, because it looks like the nominative singular article,
right?
Masculine nominative singular article, you'll notice the accent. You'll go, oh, that's a relative pronoun, but you're gonna in your head want to make it masculine, and it's not. It's neuter.
Oh.
Yeah, just because it looks a lot like the masculine article. So that's one difference that you need to be aware of.
Wait, you want to make it masculine, but it's who?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Like, okay, so you said, like, I'm going to want to make it masculine, as in...
Right. What is the masculine nominative singular article?
Ha.
Ha. Right. What is the neuter nominative singular relative pronoun?
Ha.
Right. What I'm saying is that when you see the relative pronoun in translation, your mind, because you know the article so well, your mind is going to say, oh, that's a masculine.
Right.
And you need to remember that it's not. They're flopped in the relative pronoun. Yeah.
Right. That makes sense.
Okay. But the relative pronoun functions in a lot of fun ways. Number and gender of a relative pronoun are the same as its antecedent, just like autos when it's functioning with an antecedent. And its antecedent can be anywhere. That's sometimes you don't get the antecedent, especially in Mounce's translations. You don't get the antecedent. So the case of the relative pronoun is definitely determined by its function in the relative clause, not in the sentence, but in the relative clause. And this is where I started getting like, oh no, what am I doing? Because I was like, relative clause, is that like Santa's brother? But I didn't know what was going on. But it gets its function, it gets its case is determined by its function in the relative clause.
Okay.
So if it's the subject in the clause, yet it's the object in the sentence, it will come across as a nominative because of its function in the clause, not as an accusative because it's the object in the sentence.
Okay, you have to say that one more time.
Yeah, and I had to say it for myself too. What I'm saying is that take this for example. If I said the ball hit Aaron, who was not looking. Mm-hmm. Okay, the subject is the ball. Mm-hmm. The verb is hit, and the object is Aaron.
Right.
Okay. The relative pronoun is just describing Aaron, who was not looking. Okay. That's the relative clause.
Right.
Okay. Now that clause attached to Aaron is actually a part of the object of a sentence. Aaron is going to be, well,
the object.
Something would be the object and would be in the accusative case. But when you get to this relative clause, you're not going to see the relative pronoun with the accusative case.
Okay.
You're going to see the relative pronoun with the nominative case because it is functioning as the nominative in that clause.
That really sucks.
Yeah. Who was not looking.
I'm so encouraging. Okay,
yeah.
All right.
So it's going to be nominative because it's the subject within that clause. It's like that clause has a little nation of its own within the sentence, and it's got its own government and it's got its own paperwork, and it's the nominative there, even though it's not the nominative of the sentence.
Right. Okay.
And so that it's sometimes it's confusing to get your head around. But that's the way that works. If the accusative is acting if the relative pronoun is acting as the object in the clause, it will be in the relative clause, not in the sentence. If it's acting as the object in the relative clause, it will take an accusative case, even if it's part of the subject of the sentence.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Frick. Okay, how do you know when you have a relative clause?
Well, most of the time when you see a relative pronoun, the first filter that needs to go up is, okay, does this have a clause attached to it?
How do you know if it has a clause?
Well, you can look at the words right after it. It will.
Okay.
Yeah. Most of the time, by the way, relative pronouns do introduce relative clauses.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're dependent clauses. And it shows you here that sometimes those clauses can modify a noun, like give you like the example I give you, Aaron, who was not looking. That clause is modifying the noun. Right. Sometimes the clause can actually take the place of a noun. It can act substantively.
Oh, okay.
So it could be like look at 14.12, the translation procedures. It says Jesus spoke what is righteous.
Okay, what is righteous? Oh, that really sucks.
Yeah. And then look at
so it's almost like it can be its own little sentence.
Yeah, look at number 2 in 14.11 on page 116.
Okay.
Relative clauses can also function as subject, direct object, indirect object, object of a preposition, etc. In other words, they can perform almost any function that a noun can. Okay. In these cases, it may be necessary to add a pronoun to the clause to make it better sounding English. For example, in the sentence, who will be first will be last. The relative clause is the subject of the verb will be. Okay,
hold on. The relative clause is the subject of the verb will
be.
So, yes. So what it's saying is who is the subject.
Right. And who is the entire clause in this sake.
Okay. To make the translation smoother, you can add a personal pronoun. He who will be first will be last.
Right.
Okay, so Haas.
Now, keep in mind the entire clause is who will be first.
Okay.
Now, who is the subject within the clause, but the entire clause is functioning as, so who will be first as a whole is functioning as the nominative, the subject of will be in the sentence.
So if I'm looking at the sentence.
Right.
Oh, no, they don't have it. Okay, never mind. They don't have it in the Greek.
No, you're right.
Okay.
But you can look at the sentence that is in Greek there.
Yeah, so that's what I was looking at. Haas u. So Haas is he?
That is your nominative singular relative pronoun, masculine.
So it's going to be, I thought that was translated as who.
It is.
Okay.
But keep in mind this example, he's saying he says, look at the last sentence above that. To make the translation smoother, you can add a personal pronoun. He who will be first will be last to help it smooth out.
Okay, that makes sense. And then what's the oo? What word is that?
Oo is, you tell me. You know that one.
No, I don't. Not.
Yes, it's a negation. Yes.
He who, okay. You can also add demonstrative pronoun.
Yeah, it's like adding he for smooth. You can also add a demonstrative because that's another pronoun you can add.
Great.
Yeah. It gets fun here.
Yeah, this is difficult. Now, like, do you run across this a lot? Like these relative.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere. Everywhere. Yep.
Clauses.
Yep.
So this is a chapter to know.
Yes, this is a chapter to know, and not just that. It's important for you to grasp this grammar concept because it's this chapter and the chapters before wrestling with how sentences are structured that is going to make you a better writer in general.
Okay.
It's going to help you solidify your own writing as you think through, is this structured properly? What is this pronoun doing? What is this relative pronoun? How is it functioning?
Okay. So a relative pronoun is one. I know that too, which or that, but like, what is it? It's
a pronoun, but it introduces, like I said, it introduces a clause. So, but it also functions as a regular pronoun. So take, for example, we do this in English all the time, Aaron. Like in English, do you know when to use who and when to use whom?
Yes.
How? What's the rule? How do you know when to use who and when to use whom?
I don't know.
Well, if you know how to do it.
I don't know how to explain it. It just sounds.
Okay, well, can you explain it for me?
No, I don't know. Like to whom are you talking to?
Okay. Why did you choose whom? Why didn't you say to who are you talking to?
Because I know that's not right English.
Why is it not right? Because right now you're talking about relative pronouns. What if I said, and all of this is leading to who the Lord chose? Is that right?
All this is leading. Wait, what?
Like if I were teaching a class and I was talking about Assyria and Persia coming in and dominating Babylon, and I said, all of this information is leading to who the Lord chose to lead. Is that right?
I don't know. No?
Well, don't guess. Tell me right or wrong.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
It's wrong. If I said all of this is leading to toward whom the Lord has chosen,
right,
would be correct. But why?
I don't know.
This is the epitome of the issue with relative pronouns.
Okay.
Is that in English we do the same thing. We do it by who and whom, but we change the use of that word depending on how it's functioning in the relative clause.
Okay.
So if you think about it, if I said all of this is leading toward, and then I were to take that clause out and I were to say whom the Lord chose. Okay. If you were to break down that sentence, what's the verb?
Chose.
Chose. Who's doing the choosing?
The Lord.
Okay. Who's being chosen?
Whom.
Whom. So it is in the accusative case, even though it's at the front of the relative clause. It's in the accusative case because it's functioning as the object of the verb in the clause.
It's functioning as the what?
The object of the verb in the clause. So
right.
when you use whom is when the relative pronoun is functioning as the object of the verb. When it functions as the subject of the verb, you use the word who. That's the rule. Yeah.
Okay.
And so when you're forming clauses, even when you write or you speak in English, that's how you determine when to use who and when to use whom. Is if whom in that relative phrase, if whom is what you're talking about is receiving the action of the verb, then it needs to be whom.
Okay.
So like when you start a letter, to whom it may concern. Whom in that section is the object of concern. Okay.
Right. I just need to think of whom as the object.
Right. Whom is the object, or it's some sort of object. Is it the object of the verb or an object of a preposition?
Object of a verb or object of a preposition.
Right.
Right. Okay.
So, and you're going to do the same thing here. It's just it's going to be more obvious in Greek because it's going to look different. It's going to take a different case, different ending, and it's going to take that ending according to how it's used.
Got it. Okay.
So you've got who, which, that, of whom, which, whose, to whom, which, and to whom, again, because in the dative, it is the object of that preposition to whom would always be it, which, and then whom, which, that. So that's the main
So
issue.
it's only going to be who when it's the subject.
Nominative. Yeah, when it's nominative. That's the only time it can be who.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
There you go.
Okay.
So it is literally that easy. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff that threw me in a whirlwind as a student, starting to think about the ways it could function. I went, oh no, I don't know how these things function in English. This is messed up.
Yeah, like I don't know. That's helpful. So whom is the object and who is the subject. So that's why who is always going to be the nominative.
Right. Okay. Yes. And when you see an accusative, you want to immediately think whom.
Okay.
If it's a person, generally who and whom are reserved for persons, generally. For people. And then that or which is reserved for things. That's not always true, but for the most part, that's true.
Okay.
So anyway, what's your poison? Do you want some translation?
Well,
Do you want some?
I'll tell you what I really want, but I do want to.
Tell me what you want.
I really want to do translations.
Let's do it.
But I do want to ask a question about the quiz.
Okay.
So for the quiz, is it? I don't know I know you can't tell me, but or you can lead me. Is it for parsing? Is it mostly gonna be nouns, or is it gonna be a mixture of nouns and verbs?
It's gonna be a mixture of noun and verbs. There's gonna be, I don't know, at least 2 verbs.
Okay.
But the you do want to make sure you know the paradigm and how to parse your relative pronouns.
Okay.
You do want to know.
Okay.
And I would, if I were you, I'd just glance over 13.13 on page 110. That little paradigm that I put there.
Wait, what you just broke up? Say that again.
I'm sorry, 13.13 on page 110.
Okay.
Yeah, that paradigm there. I would know that specifically where it goes different and be able to parse that.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
But other than that, the other things. There's some verbs on there. There's some nouns. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. That's helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's also the demonstratives. So you want to know those too. Just think these chapters, the demonstratives and the relative pronouns, be able to parse those.
Demonstrative.
Chapter 13.
Yeah. Okay.
Be able to parse the paradigm on 13.5 and 13.4. Be able to parse through those.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it. 13.5, 4. Okay. Okay. So I really need help with translations. I haven't done barely any, Joseph. So
you ain't done nothing.
I ain't done nothing.
Okay. Okay.
Can we start out easy and go big?
Sure. Let's do it. What page is it?
203.
203. Aaron, you get special treatment since you're the only one that signs on.
I feel bad.
Everybody else gets to just watch your questions.
I feel like everyone leaves because I don't know, I dominate. I don't know.
All right. You guide me then. I'm on page 2.
Okay. Yeah, let's just do let's just do the warm up. Can we do some of the warm ups?
Sure.
Okay. I did the first one and I do not know this man.
That's what I would put.
Okay. All right. And then I started on beta, but I didn't get very far.
Really?
Okay. So verb. Is oida? I can't remember that. What's the vocab word?
You did it in the first one, Aaron.
Yeah, but I want to understand what I did because now I don't remember.
Well, I mean, the vocab is the same vocab as A, so you should be able to figure it out.
You're not being helpful, Joseph.
What are you talking about?
You're supposed to give me the answers.
It's not going to work.
Oh, that's this weird one.
Yes, it is weird.
So it's second person plural, present active indicative. Right?
Yes. Could also be imperative, but we'll go with yours because either way it's second person.
Imperative? Oh, right. Okay. So you do not know. Is it this parable?
That's what it looks like to me. But the problem is there's a little thing at the end of the sentence that means you need to reform it.
Do you know this parable?
No.
Do you not know this parable?
There you go. Do you not know this parable, or don't you know this parable? Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna do one more. Okay, folks. So the light of the Lord I see. He, she, it.
What does blepo mean?
I see.
Good.
So it's he, she, or it. So he sees this to what is of this? It's possessive. I don't know what to do with possessive.
Well, you found your verb. Good job.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a subject for that verb in the sentence?
No.
Okay, then it probably stands as he sees.
He sees.
Now work from there. What's your object?
He sees the light of the Lord.
Well, what are you doing with tutu?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Okay, is tutu acting?
It's genitive.
It's genitive, but how's it acting? Is it modifying a noun or is it acting substantively?
Okay, is it modifying a noun?
Yeah, remember your demonstratives can function a couple of ways.
Mm-hmm.
They can function like adjectives,
mm-hmm.
Or they can just be a regular pronoun themselves.
Okay, well, I thought if it was functioning as an adjective, it is functioning as an adjective.
Is it? What's it modifying then?
The light of the Lord.
Okay, it's functioning as an adjective. It has to agree in case, number, and gender with a noun. And wait a minute, it looks like it does.
How?
To the one right before it. That is also a genitive. Singular.
Okay, so he sees this light of the Lord.
Now, wait a minute. Does it agree with ta phos? Because that doesn't look genitive to me.
Okay, no. All right. He sees the light of this Lord.
Okay. You're having a problem because it doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
You translated that correctly, except for your vocab is off on one word and it's making you question yourself.
Phos?
No.
Oh,
Phos is right.
the world. Okay.
There you go.
So
now try it.
So he sees the light of this world.
There you go.
Okay. So, all right. This is good with, okay, 2-2. Is it normally going to come after?
It can.
No.
That's in a predicate position. If you look in 13.8 in your book on page 109,
yeah, I see that.
Gives the same example of it coming after.
Yeah. Okay.
So it can. It's still in the predicate position. It doesn't have an article, but the noun does.
I guess in my mind that there's this clause like the light of the world, and if there's going to be a.
That's not an official clause, by the way.
Yeah, but I guess it's like. Okay, so yeah, and I guess maybe that's where I have wrong line of thinking, because I see 2-2 and I think, okay, if it's functioning as an adjective, it needs to be modifying this clause, which is the light of the world. Do you understand how I would see that?
Yeah, no, but it's the same thing. What if there was a descriptive adjective for the world? The light of the beautiful world.
Yeah.
It would be doing the same thing. And it wouldn't modify the whole clause or the whole section. It's not a clause.
So would this relative pronoun?
It's not relative. It's a demonstrative.
Oh, demonstrative. With the demonstrative pronoun, could you have put it in front of to?
Yes. Yep. And it would have been the same. Yep.
Okay. So he.
Just like an adjective, though, when you see a demonstrative pronoun, look around for a noun that it's next to that it agrees with. If it agrees with a noun, there's a good chance it's functioning.
So when I see a demonstrative pronoun, what should be my filter? You
should treat it like an adjective. You should think about it. You should go, is it connected to a noun?
Is it connected to a noun?
Yeah, if it's connected to a noun, then it's modifying that noun. It's saying this man or this world. If there's no noun around it, then it's acting substantively. It's just saying this or these.
Okay, that makes sense. So if there's no noun, then it's acting substantively.
Right, or if there's a noun around that it doesn't agree with, it can't be modifying that noun.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I see a demonstrative pronoun, I should think, okay, is there a noun, right?
Right.
Modify.
Yep.
Okay. Halte, Estin, Hey, Entole, Hey, Aime. Oh my goodness. This is awful.
Excuse me.
Okay. All right. So Estin is he, she, it is. Hey, Entole. Hey, aim. Okay, hold on one second. Entole. What does entole mean? Entole. What does entole mean?
Do you know this word?
I thought we did. Maybe we don't.
It's a noun.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, what is it? Oh yeah, it's commandment. Okay. So
which chapter is it in?
Chapter 9. So I should know it. Okay. So intele aime.
Yep.
I don't know what that word is.
That's hey, ma.
Hey, Amy.
Right.
What does hey, May mean?
It's emphatic.
What does that mean? Emphatic? Oh man, this is awful. Okay, sorry. I need to stop saying that. Okay, so mine.
Right.
Okay, so when you say emphatic, what do you mean?
It's just it's for emphasis.
Okay, so this is my commandment.
That's right. Aaron. Well, I lost Aaron. All right, guys, if you have any questions this next week coming up about it, please let me know. All right, you can call me or Voxer me, 904-472-5019.